Welcome to Dogs Info.
Okay, let's unpack this. Um, Imagine someone speaking this really beautiful, incredibly complex language to you, like every single day.
Right.
They are pouring their heart out, telling you exactly how they feel, checking in on your well-being, and you just keep nodding, patting them on the head and saying, "Good boy." Well, completely missing the point.
Yeah, it's a profound interspecies communication gap. I mean, we walk around feeling like we are so incredibly tuned into our dogs,
Oh,
right?
totally. We think we know everything.
Exactly.
Yeah,
We buy them the right food, we know their favorite scratch spots,
yeah.
but we are often completely blind to the nuances of what they're actually trying to tell us.
And that is the core mission of our deep dive today. We're looking at this fascinating breakdown from the channel Dog Facts and Fun, specifically a piece they did called 15 Things Your Dog Does Only for You.
It's a great source.
It really is. And it turns out our dogs are performing this invisible language of daily rituals meant specifically for their favorite humans, which means you, listening right now, they're constantly running these emotional diagnostics on you. And for most of us, it's just flying right under the radar.
And the stakes here are actually surprisingly high. When we misinterpret these signals, we aren't just missing a cute moment. We are accidentally interrupting these delicate, highly evolved rituals.
Right, because we don't realize what's happening.
Exactly. The source actually points out that correcting some of these specific behaviors feels like, and they use this phrase, punishing love to the dog.
Oh, wow, punishing love, that's heavy.
It is. It leaves them incredibly confused. Over time, it forces them to abandon those gentle communications in favor of pushier, much more anxious ways to connect with you, simply because their polite attempts were ignored or scolded.
Which nobody wants. So the goal here is to decode these hidden behaviors so you can finally understand what your furry best friend is actually saying. And I think we need to start with the physical connection.
Definitely the best place to start.
Because what we often interpret as our dog just being like needy or even slightly aggressive is in reality this massive display of trust, like the inhibited mouth touch.
Ah, yes.
This is when your dog gently places their open mouth over your hand or your wrist. And my immediate human instinct, and I think a lot of people feel this way, is to assume the dog is getting mouthy and needs to be corrected before they bite.
And, well, that human startle reflex makes total sense, but we have to look at the physical markers of the dog here.
Mm-hmm.
In an inhibited mouth touch, the cues are unmistakable. There's absolutely zero pressure.
Right.
No teeth are bearing down. Their jaw muscles are completely relaxed, kind of like jelly, and their eyes are very soft.
Mm.
If we look at wild canines, mother dogs use this exact behavior to safely move fragile puppies.
Interesting.
And adult wolves use it exclusively with highly trusted pack members. So in a domestic setting, they're essentially saying, please slow down, or I need you to pay close attention to me right now.
Wait, so if my instinct is to yank my hand away and yell, "No bite," what am I actually communicating to the dog in that moment?
You're basically telling them their trust is misplaced. The source is adamant about this. If you scold them for this, you can damage a bond that took months, maybe even years to build.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I mean, in captivity, wolves only display this rare behavior with handlers they have known for years. By pulling away aggressively, you are shutting down their most polite, vulnerable request for attention. So they quickly learn that gentle communication fails, and they escalate to jumping or, excessive demanding barking.
So the proper response is to essentially just accept the gesture. The source recommends you just freeze for 2 seconds, calmly tell them, "I see you," or give some soft acknowledgement and let them release your hand on their own.
Yes, which usually happens in 3 to 5 seconds. You are passing a literal test of trust by not panicking when they have you in a vulnerable position.
That reframes so much, and it kind of makes me think about the leaning press. Like you're just standing in the kitchen making coffee, and your dog walks over and heavily leans their entire solid body weight right against your shins.
That classic move.
Right. But it always felt a bit like begging to me, like they're just getting in the way.
It does feel like they're in the way, but heavily leaning on someone is actually an undeniable sign of unquestionable trust and shared ownership. They are physically merging their personal space with yours.
Wow. Okay, I have to push back a little on the next physical touch, though, the nose nudge.
Oh, the nose nudge.
Yeah, picture this. You are sitting on the couch, scrolling on your smartphone, totally distracted, and suddenly your dog forcefully flips your hand up into the air with a wet nose. I mean, I'm sorry, but isn't that just a spoiled dog throwing a tantrum and demanding to be petted?
What's fascinating here is the underlying psychology behind which dogs actually do this. The source notes that a fearful, insecure, or even just a newly adopted dog will never forcefully break your physical boundaries like that.
Wait, really?
Really, they'll just quietly wait on the periphery to be noticed. The firm nose nudge only emerges in relationships with absolute, unwavering emotional security.
So they aren't being bratty, they just know the relationship can handle the intrusion.
Precisely. Your dog knows your bond is so strong that they can confidently demand your attention without any fear of rejection or retaliation. They see you zoned out on a glowing rectangle, and they are actively pulling you back into the present moment.
That makes a lot of sense.
And this dynamic applies to the leaning press we just mentioned too. Unsure dogs will use the lean to borrow your physical stability when they feel overwhelmed. But highly confident dogs do the exact same thing to actively offer you their stability when they sense you are stressed.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Yeah.
Because the physical connection goes way deeper than just leaning on a leg or nudging a hand. Dogs are actually tapping directly into our internal biology.
They absolutely are.
They're syncing up with us on a nervous system level. I really want to dive into the paw drift. Like, you're watching TV, your dog is fast asleep next to you, and over the course of several minutes, their paw slowly stretches out until it makes the absolute lightest possible contact with you.
Yes.
We're talking just a single millimeter of fur touching your leg.
The crucial detail to understand about the paw drift is that it is driven completely by the autonomic nervous system.
Okay, unpack that. Autonomic meaning they aren't actively deciding to do it. It's kind of like us shivering when we are cold.
Exactly like that. The sleeping dog is not consciously waking up, looking at the distance between you two, and deciding to reach out. Their nervous system is automatically seeking out a physical connection while their conscious brain is totally at rest.
That is so wild.
It's identical to how sleeping human couples will instinctively maintain physical contact, like a hand on a shoulder or touching feet throughout the night without ever waking up.
And the wildest part of the source material was what this behavior reveals in multi-dog households. The dog doesn't just drift toward anybody in the room, they subconsciously gravitate toward whoever they view as their ultimate emotional regulator.
Right.
And that choice happens completely regardless of who fills the food bowl or who takes them on the most walks.
It really challenges our standard assumptions about how canine affection works. We tend to think food is the ultimate currency, but food is transactional. Emotional regulation is biological.
Right.
They drift toward the person whose presence naturally lowers their heart rate. Which brings us to an even more intense biological connection-breathing synchronization. Have you ever noticed your dog watching you right before you fall asleep?
Yeah, they just stare at you while you're yawning or like settling into the pillows.
They are highly observant of those pre-rest signals. They watch your yawns and the way your body slumps, and they proactively adjust their own respiratory rate to match what they predict yours will become.
Wow.
By the time your eyes are fully closed, they have seamlessly matched your breathing rhythm.
It's literally like a biological smartwatch, and the source detailed this incredible experiment to prove it, right? If you have two people lie down on opposite sides of a room, and each person intentionally breathes at a drastically different tempo, like one person breathing really fast, the other taking long, slow breaths, the dog will physically drift and sync to one specific person's rhythm within about 30 seconds.
It is amazing.
They physically lean a heavy shoulder into their chosen person, and their hearts fall into the exact same rhythm.
It is interspecies nervous system regulation at its most sophisticated. But here is the kicker. They don't just match our calm, they actively try to create it when we are stressed.
Yes, like the social sigh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Consider the social sigh. Your dog lies down about 3 feet away from you and releases this incredibly deep, theatrical, fluttering sigh.
My dog does this always right when I crash on the couch after a totally chaotic day of work. Honestly, it sounds almost judgmental, like they are exhausted by my stress.
It isn't judgment at all, though I know it sounds like it. They typically deploy this dramatic sigh during your absolute lowest energy periods or when your stress is palpable.
Oh, okay.
The source explains that your dog is biologically attempting to regulate your erratic breathing pattern to perfectly match their calm one. The dog is essentially acting like a professional human therapist during a co-regulation session.
That's incredible.
Yeah, they're using their own physiological state to shift the atmosphere in the room and calm an anxious partner.
So they're constantly monitoring our internal state, but the deep dive source shows they take that internal data and use it to map the external environment too.
Very much so.
Which explains behaviors like selective following and transition pausing. I have to admit, if my dog stopped at the front door and refused to walk in, I always thought they were just being stubborn.
A lot of people think that.
Or, if a friend's dog followed them into every single room, I assumed that meant they had a tighter bond than I did with my dog, who just stays on the couch when I go to the bathroom.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's often the exact opposite. Let's look at selective following. The dog follows you into the kitchen or the garage, but ignores you when you go to the bathroom or the pantry.
Right.
The source points out that researchers have found these selective followers actually display much stronger, healthier attachment bonds than dogs who shadow their owners nonstop.
Because they aren't anxious about losing you. They have literally, mathematically mapped out your daily routine.
Exactly.
They've built this complex psychological equation. The kitchen equals food and high activity. The bathroom equals a boring, safe waiting spot. The garage equals a major transition that needs monitoring. They understand spatial boundaries.
Yes.
They inherently know when their presence is necessary and when it is perfectly safe to give you space.
Exactly. Their independence is a sign of immense confidence in your bond. And regarding transition pausing, when your dog hesitates moving from a quiet hallway into a busy living room or from the house to the backyard, it is not stubbornness.
What is it then?
It is transition anxiety. Though anxiety might be a bit of a strong word, it's more about sensory processing. Their brain must briefly and rapidly recalculate safety, visual changes, and new acoustic sounds before crossing a threshold.
And the proof is in the data. The source cited these groundbreaking studies using GPS and biometric collars.
Yes, the collar studies.
Dogs who deliberately pause at these thresholds to check in with their humans show measurably lower overall stress levels throughout the entire day.
Yeah.
Their hyper-alert nervous system immediately settles simply because they take a beat to process the environment through your reaction.
They're using you as a filter for the environment.
Yeah.
We also see this environment-to-human connection with the pre-storm touch.
Oh, right.
Hours before a storm, before there are any dark clouds or thunder, your dog will suddenly need to press a body part firmly against you.
Yeah.
What is happening biologically there is remarkable. The invisible atmospheric barometric pressure drops.
Right.
This activates their amygdala, which is the fear and alarm center of their brain signaling that a major environmental shift is coming.
But instead of going to hide under a bed like they would if they were just terrified, they seek you out.
Right. They are not looking for simple physical shelter. They are proactively ensuring access to their emotional regulator before the severe environmental stress even begins. They're securing their safety anchor before the chaos starts.
That is just wild to think about. And this incredible mapping behavior, like reading our internal state, calculating the environment, it doesn't just happen randomly. It actually bookends our entire day, starting from the literal second we open our eyes.
It really does.
The source outlines these daily anchors: the morning eye lock, the bedtime scent map update, and the guard dog sleep position.
Yes.
The morning eye lock is that fleeting, intense, unblinking gaze your dog gives you the exact moment you wake up. I kind of liken it to an IT system doing a morning diagnostic boot up.
That is a perfect analogy, because while you were completely unconscious and vulnerable for 8 hours, their amygdala has been on high alert, waiting for you to regain consciousness.
Oh, wow.
During this morning stare, they are not just looking at your face generally. They are detecting incredibly subtle, microscopic facial muscle movements.
So they're running a status assessment on my mood.
Yes. They are verifying you survived the night unharmed, and they are establishing an emotional baseline to figure out how they should behave that day.
Like, are you stressed? Are you happy?
Exactly. And the source notes this ritual becomes significantly more intense and prolonged after a day of unfamiliar visitors or, emotional upheaval in the house.
They need to know what emotional weather they are dealing with today. And then at the complete other end of the day, there's the bedtime scent map update.
Right.
Right before sleep, you'll see a dog methodically sniff your shoes, a specific spot on the couch, and your pillows. It looks totally random, like they are just pacing, but they are actually verifying your chemical scent profile.
Because all day long you've been traveling, sweating from stress, interacting with other people, and every single one of those factors shifts your unique scent. Going to sleep is a dog's most vulnerable physical state.
Yeah.
They need to verify their immediate world is safe and deeply connected to your specific baseline scent before they allow themselves to lose consciousness.
Makes total sense.
The source actually offers a brilliant practical tip here. If you have an unsettled dog or a dog dealing with separation anxiety, placing a worn t-shirt in their bed heavily comforts their nervous system.
Oh, because it provides that concentrated baseline scent they spend every night searching for.
Exactly.
Okay, but I have to ask about a behavior that seems to contradict all of this bonding.
Okay, what is it?
After all that scent mapping and eye locking, my dog will go lie down at the foot of a bed or even on the floor, facing the bedroom doorway with their back completely turned to me.
Ah.
If they are so obsessed with my emotional state, doesn't a dog turning its back to me mean they're being aloof or ignoring me?
This raises an important question about how poorly we interpret canine body language through a human lens. In human body language, sure, turning your back is a rejection. In canine psychology, facing away from you while you sleep is a profound instinctual display of pack protection. They are officially taking the first watch.
Oh, wow.
By positioning their solid body between you and the primary entrance, they are pointing their highly sensitive nose and ears toward the most likely source of a potential threat.
Wow. So sleeping with their back to you is actually the ultimate sign of absolute trust.
Absolutely. They know they don't need to protect themselves from you, so they can afford to focus all their sensory energy outward. They are silently declaring that they will be the first line of defense, so you can rest deeply.
Okay, so we've covered the heavy, high-stakes guarding, the nervous system syncing, the environmental mapping. Let's shift gears to the more quirky, highly specialized ways domestic dogs try to actively manipulate the mood of the room.
The fun stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Things like the possession parade, the apology lick, and the fake sneeze. I have to bring up the possession parade because every dog owner knows this.
Oh, definitely.
Your dog grabs a squeaky toy, or worse, a stolen, gross, dirty sock, and happily trots around the living room exactly where you can see them. Why parade a dirty sock in front of me instead of just hiding in a corner and eating it where they won't get caught?
Well, the source makes a fascinating distinction here. Wild wolves absolutely never do this with each other. Never. This quirky behavior requires a highly specific, complex type of interspecies trust that emerges only in healthy human-dog relationships. The parade serves two distinct biological purposes. First, showing you their prize triggers a massive release of dopamine inside your dog's brain.
So they're literally getting high on the satisfaction of showing off.
Yes, exactly. They are proudly showing you that they possess something highly valuable and they feel safe enough that they don't need to guard it. Second, it is a psychological test of resource security.
Okay, how so?
If you respect the parade and offer a simple positive acknowledgement like, wow, good job, they will happily maintain this behavior.
Yeah.
But if you constantly interrupt them, chase them, or aggressively snatch the sock away, they adapt.
Oh, they become secret hoarders and start destroying things under the bed.
Precisely.
That makes total sense. They're testing if their joy is safe with you. And speaking of navigating our moods, there's the apology lick.
Such a sweet behavior.
Picture this. You are visibly frustrated, maybe grumbling after a tough phone call that has absolutely nothing to do with the dog. You sit down, and they slowly approach with a lowered head to gently lick your hand or your knee.
This happens because your dog is essentially an emotional sponge. They are not just guessing you are mad. They can literally smell the cortisol, the stress hormone flooding your system.
Wow.
And they can hear the sharp tension in your vocal cords. In wild pack dynamics, high tension inevitably leads to dangerous physical conflict. So pack members utilize appeasement behaviors to survive.
Right.
By offering soft, rhythmic licks, your dog is actively attempting to diffuse the negative energy in the room. They are saying, I am not a threat, please let's restore peace.
And the tragedy is, if we push them away because we're annoyed at the phone call, we damage that trust. We really have to accept their peacemaking mission, maybe give them a gentle stroke, which actually lowers the cortisol for both of us.
Exactly.
And finally, we have to talk about my absolute favorite quirky de-escalation trick, the fake sneeze. A dog looks right at your face during a weird moment and produces a sharp, deliberate sneeze.
It's crucial to note these are entirely different from medical sneezes.
Oh, for sure.
The acoustic properties are vastly different. A real allergy sneeze involves a violent spasm of the dog's whole body. Fake ones just utilize a quick controlled burst of air through the nose, and they're almost always pointed directly at a specific target person.
Now, I always heard this was a play signal. Is that true?
Originally, yes. Standard dog-to-dog communication uses the play sneeze to signal that roughhousing is just play and not actual fighting. But highly intelligent domestic dogs have brilliantly adapted this exact same signal to use exclusively with humans to manage our behavior. With you, the fake sneeze translates to, I need a quick reset, or let us change the energy in this room right now.
So they use it during tense moments like uncomfortable vet visits or when guests are being too loud and overwhelming them.
Right.
The source mentions that if we actually start responding to these fake sneezes by pausing, taking a breath, and adjusting the situation, our dogs will learn to communicate with us this way even more frequently.
Exactly. They are constantly speaking to us, adjusting their tactics based on what we respond to. We just have to be willing to listen to the whispers before they are forced to shout.
So what does this all mean? If we step back and look at all of this, from the microscopic facial checks of the morning eye lock, to the autonomic paw drifts, to the fake sneezes to reset a room, it means our dogs are constantly running emotional and biological diagnostics on us.
They really are.
They have mapped our homes, they have mapped our daily routines, and most importantly, they have mapped our emotional baselines. We just need to recognize the language and stop interrupting their delicate rituals.
And that leads to a really profound realization to take away from all this source material. I mean, we spend so much time, money, and energy focusing on how we train our dogs to fit into our world.
Right.
But when you look at the evidence, how they independently analyze our microfacial expressions while we sleep, how they calculate our spatial boundaries, how they literally smell our cortisol levels, and how they deploy specialized physical therapies like the social sigh to regulate our erratic breathing.
Yeah.
Given all of this highly evolved interspecies emotional management happening quietly under our own roofs,
Yeah.
it raises a massive question. Are we actually the ones training and domesticating our dogs, or have our dogs been secretly domesticating our nervous systems this entire time?
Wow. That is a thought that is going to linger the next time my dog nudges my hand away from my phone. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the secret language of your furry best friend. So tomorrow morning when you wake up, don't just pat them on the head and say, "Good boy." Take a beat, look for the eye lock, listen for the sigh, and realize that you are participating in a beautiful, invisible conversation. Catch you next time.
Thank for watching and like and subscribe share please.